Hi everyone. CLAT 2024 is finally over. And cutting to the chase, the first impression that we have of the exam is that it has been inclining on the easier end. Mostly all the sections, may it be English, GK, maths, they did not have a lot of contested questions. Sections like logical and legal had a few passages which are a cakewalk. However, there are certain subjective questions that they exist in these two segments. However, the catch when there is a easy question paper obviously is that there's a possibility, rather what will happen is that the ranges of people scoring which will definitely shoot up. So even if the 3/4 of the paper that we have is uncontested, the difference will come and the entire question will boil down to the 30 questions which have a possibility of being debated, which have a possibility of having arguments from both the sides. And this is something that we'll see when the consortium releases its answer key, and then we'll see how there's a difference between what you might have felt is right. However, there's a possibility that they consider it not to be right, and this is something that happens every year. This being a subjective exam always has a room for interpretation, and this is where this entire game will boil down to. If we have to give a section wise analysis, the way we look at it is that English was largely easy. Very easily, 18-ish questions were either fact based, something that you could have gone to the passage, checked, and come back. There were not a lot of vocabulary questions, there weren't a lot of grammar questions which we witnessed. However, in general, these questions were majorly fact based, which again makes it a paper in a 150 minutes time frame. It becomes easy for you to go back, check it, and then come back. So we would say that things like, for example, the second passage of English, it was super easy. It was only reading the passage once, going through the questions, coming back, checking, and then answering. So mostly that was a cakewalk. It can be said that the first passage was slightly, it had a few questions, one or two odd questions which could be contested, but largely English section was a section that will not give you a lot of trouble. If you enter the exam hall, start with English, I would say that you'll get a good impression that okay, we have I'm in a solid position. When we move to GK again had what was shocking and surprising rather was that there were certain questions which were just lifted up from the passage and given below. What was nice was that all of our predictions, by which we mean G20, Israel, Palestine, Gaza, the issue of Gaza, all of that was something that we witnessed in the question paper, and all of this is something that all of us had predicted, which means that all of us had prepared for it. I think in GK, the difference will again boil down to not more than 4 or 5 questions, which some people might have done right, which the other might have not. However, what we feel is the major differentiation would be created by a section like logical or a section like legal for that matter. At the risk of reiterating, let's say 3/4 of the paper is something which is uncontested. 90 questions is something that most of you who are actually aiming for a good top three would have got right. However, the last 30 questions is something that will be deciding where the game will be inclined to and where you people will be eventually placed. So I would say that a major chunk of it would be from logical and from legal. Why do I say so? If you look at a logical passage, the first passage of logical, the second passage of logical, these had certain questions pertaining to strengthening, weakening, and interpretation. The option choices back in English were largely, the options were very clear. The options were close to a no-brainer. It was like these are the other options were close to atrocious, which many a times or most of the times will not be right. However, this is not the case with logical. Logical had certain close options which might have confused you between two options, and this is where a lot of things will decide. If you've had a smooth logical and a legal, I think well placed because other sections were largely on the easier end of it. So the first passage and the second passage of logical, third and the fourth passage of logical were again towards the easier end because of the not so close option choices. The options were like very clear. They were asking you to pick you up because the others were so bad. So I'd say the first and the second passage, this is something that you really need to look forward to. When it comes to legal, again, legal was not simply a cakewalk. I would say that few passages like the first passage was relating to social media, online claims, and all of that was easy. However, if you look at the second passage, which relates to the very heated debate of rights of children who are arising out of void and voidable marriages, so the application in them, the application of rules, understanding the rule and then applying it to them is something that will be of differential opinion. And even though some of the questions therein might have been like very starkly and abundantly clear, however, this is not the case with all the questions in that passage. Similar is my opinion with respect to the PRP bill, the 2023 bill. It does not give you like very clear, succinct answer choices on the face of it, and therefore there is a need for us to like properly understand. And so is the case with the Digital Protection Act. So if you've gotten these, if you've spent a good amount of time understanding this, applying this, and not rushing in these aspects of the question paper, I think you are decently placed. When it comes to quantitative techniques, we think that the first set was on the easier end. What made quantitative techniques even more easier was the fact that there were only two sets, which means that two sets, 6 questions each. Therefore, there was not a difference in, with respect to, you did not have to solve a lot. You did not have to solve 3-4 sets, which would have taken a huge amount of time. What we were looking forward to was first question is largely easy. Most of you might have got it right. The second set is not difficult. It is slightly calculation extensive. So you require a decent amount of time to solve that. However, it is not at all easy. If you look at the English, the logical, the legal passages, these are not rigorous. They do not have a complicated language. So it is not like you have to come back to that passage again and again, which gives you the potential to spare a good amount of time for solving the quantitative techniques second set. And therefore, we would be of the opinion that if you're actually applying and you're actually willing to get into the top few colleges, quantitative techniques should have not been a problem. Definitely, it requires some amount of time. However, it is not a problem in general. With that said, maths, easier end. GK somewhere around largely easy. English was a surprise because people expect English to usually be slightly on the moderate end, but we will say because there are not a lot of questions which are open for interpretation. You can objectively determine what is the right option and what is not the right option. English was also on the easier end. However, what will be the factor that will decide actually the ranks is something like logical and legal, and not the entire logical legal section. However, 2-3 sets in each of them that will actually determine, and not all the questions, again 2-3-4 questions in all of them, which will determine that where you will be placed. So the conception that people in general have is that when there's an easy paper, the ones who are not prepared well are the ones who also score good. However, our understanding is that because there are a good 30 questions, 30 to 35 questions which are still contested and which are still subjective, it is the ones who have prepared well, the ones who will go ahead in those 30-35 questions are the ones who will be placed well. And again, the question, even though the question paper, even though inclined on a easier side, it does have a lot of elements of subjectivity. So even though predominantly the question paper is easy, that does not warrant that everyone's getting a good a good university. So again, it will boil down to the rest of the 30 easy to moderate or moderate questions that will determine how we'll be placed. Time wise, we would say that anyone who's actually looking forward to a top 3 should be able to solve 105 plus questions. And this is where and after that, the accuracy that we look forward to, you do not have a lot of room for errors. Somewhere around 10 to 15. 15 would again be a upper limit for getting questions wrong. So 105 plus attempts is something that you should be having for a good top 2, top 3, and 10 to 15 wrong for again a good top 2, top 3 is something that we're looking forward to. And because AIR1 would have obviously gotten a flawless paper, crazy number of attempts, and good number of accuracy, we are expecting that definitely 100 plus is something that we're anticipating for an AIR1. However, things can get unpredictable. We are still looking forward to the consortium's answer key. The moment we get that is the moment that we'll also have good amount of clarity. That kept aside, I think our aim right now is to not be carried away by our emotions. Let's not get our emotions get the better of us. We still have an exam which is 1 week from now. Regardless of howsoever your exam went by, extremely good, bad, extremely bad, it is something that we'll deal with at the other side of the table eventually when we are done with all our exams. Right now, we have an exam to prepare. Let's not get carried away by what we are feeling, by what people are saying. Let's just take a good amount of rest. Let's just start preparing for ELA tomorrow, and let's just see what it happens. All right, all the best.